What we've sought to do, and we're the only party that's done this, is to put into practice our principles of equality and equal treatment. So from laws against racial and religious discrimination, through to Islamic high schools, through to halal food and Muslim chaplains in prison, and through to now MRI scanners in place of post-mortem. What we have sought to do in that and many, many other ways is to ensure that there is tangible, practical respect for one of the world's great religions as part of the vibrant communities of the United Kingdom. But there's a wider issue here about how we better educate the non-Muslim population about the tenets of Islam. And one of the things, I've done my best to learn as much as I can about Islam, one of the things that is striking is that if I talk to a Muslim audience about my prophets or Jewish prophets, you understand who they are, from Abraham and David and Moses and Jesus and the Virgin Mary. But if I go to talk to a Christian audience in this town, most people, frankly, are very ill-informed indeed about what Islam is about and the fact that we are all religions of one book, one God. So part of what I want to do, and in any event,
3 seconds, yeah,
is to ensure a better understanding amongst the non-Muslim population about Islam with my Muslim friends. I'm one member, but I seek to do it very quickly indeed, in a matter of weeks.
So in a matter of weeks, Mr. Straw, you develop a cross-party parliamentary
I mean,
committee.
just so we're clear, there are two kinds of cross-party committee. There's select committees, which take up some time to establish. There are then all-party committees, which I think was behind the question, which are very rapid to establish, and that's what I'd seek to establish.
So we have a commitment from Mr. Straw. Within a matter of weeks, a committee will be set up for this.
We moved legislation to outlaw incitement to religious discrimination and hatred, first of all to ensure that the Muslim community is able to practice its religion as it wishes and to do that in tangible ways. Not least, for example, I was 20 years ago when the idea of faith schools for non-Christians was raised. And we were in opposition. I raised that in Parliament, received a rebuff from the Conservatives, then got it into our own party's policy, then ensured that that policy was implemented by the first Labour Education Secretary, David Blunkett. And that's directly affected the self-respect of all members of the Muslim community, I suggest, in Blackburn, as well as obviously those girls lucky enough to go to Tahidal. Many other ways in which we have increased respect for Islam, including our prisoners, often forgotten. They've committed criminal offences, many of them, but not all of them. There was no provision for halal food when the Conservatives were in power on the grounds that it was too expensive, too complicated, nor were there any full-time Muslim chaplains. I introduced both as Home Secretary, and there's much else besides, including, for example, implementing the recommendations of the Lawrence Inquiry so that there are Muslim and other faith police officers. I agree with Paul about the press. We have a big problem in this country with their parody of Islam. It used to be the press parodied those from the Caribbean. Now it's parodying those from Islam. Build on the kind of initiatives that the Cathedral and the Council of Mosques have taken, the Discover Mosques movement, the great festival which many, many white people turn up to with the breaking of the fast during Ramadan. And it's not just, as it were, the usual white people who turn up, but it's really interesting how many white people in this town turn up for the breaking of the fast during Ramadan and are very, very interested. They probably had no connection at all with any celebration of Islam. It's all of those things, building them up together, ensuring greater exchanges between the primary schools and in the secondary schools, and not least in the college and now the university in town, and much else besides. And also doing what I think too many people don't do. Many, many people in town, whatever area they live in, work with white or Asian people, and trying to encourage them to invite each other into each other's homes, building things up like that. I said that because I wanted to get across my own personal sense of responsibility, that I wasn't trying to run away from decisions in which I participated. I then spelled out in the Iraq inquiry, as I did in a memorandum I submitted, that the reasons why I felt at the time that decision was justified, and with the information then available, I would have come to a similar decision today. On settlements, and I have seen these settlements. I mean, let us be quite clear about this. Of course, there are always reasons for the Israelis expanding settlements, which is that they want more land and more housing. But this is the theft of Palestinians' property. And I put it that starkly. And I've seen these. We need to understand what the Israelis are seeking to do, both in the occupied territories of the West Bank, but also in East Jerusalem, where, as you know, part of the international understanding was that East Jerusalem was Palestinian and West Jerusalem was Jewish, and they're breaking that rule. On Hamas, my view, and there was some suggestion that I got invited to leave as Foreign Secretary because of this, because it became public, was that we had to provide an opportunity to Hamas to come back into negotiations. And I was critical of those who said to the Palestinian Authority that we should have elections, which I may say Fatah didn't want because they thought they'd lose them. Say we would respect the result. There was then a democratic election, and then the international community sought to deny the result. And my own view is that that does not help those who want a peaceful path in Hamas, because Hamas, like other organisations, covers a multitude of sentiments. We live in a free society, free speech and freedom to wear what people want. Am I in favour of what UKIP proposes? No. I'm wholly opposed to any suggestion that the criminal law should be invoked against women, in this case wearing Islamic dress, including the full veil. Just as I'm being very vocal against proposals from elsewhere, like Belgium and France, to ban the wearing of the veil.
Do you actually regret making those comments about the niqab that you made a couple of years ago, whenever it was?
2006. To be blunt, if I'd realised the scale of publicity that they received in October 2006, I wouldn't have made them, and I'm sorry about that if it has caused problems. And I offer that apology. Let me say, I'm not responsible for those in France or Germany or in this country pursuing this. That is their business. I'm fundamentally opposed to what they're doing. But if you're asking me the specific question, do I regret the fact that it then got taken around the world and taken out of context? Yes, of course I do. And I go on seeing people, Muslim women, wearing the full veil in my constituency, advice surgery. I wouldn't dream of treating them other than with respect, and I think they know from me that I do give them respect, and I give them as much help as I give anybody else, whatever their faith. And I'm really glad to have had that opportunity to clear that up. What I'd like there to be is more communication, not just with me explaining why women wear the veil, but between you and white people in town explaining that you don't wear the veil in order to offend others, which is what any of us who are canvassing in white areas quite often receive on the doorstep, but you do it out of respect for your religion, your interpretation of your obligations. So all of that. The issue arose, and I say if you read the article rather than its interpretation, you'll see that, about a woman who came to see me, and she said she was really pleased to see me face to face. And she could see me face to face, but I bluntly could not see her face to face. And she then wanted a conversation face to face. And so I just talked about the problem of communication. It's a genuine issue. There's no point. And so that's why I raised it in a very gentle way. I wouldn't dream of asking someone to remove their veil, and I haven't done. No, I didn't. I talked to them about it, and I've never done so since, let me say. And as for the suggestion that I'm responsible for people's criminal actions, no, I'm not. I mean, I'd say if I had had my time over again and realised the way in which it was going to be misinterpreted, no, I wouldn't have put it in that way at that time. But as I say, it wasn't out of the blue, because I had a perfectly sensible discussion at an occasion like this, and no one had thought that my comments put moderately, as the article was, were anything exceptional, that I said what I said.